Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. This is day 2 of our lean-to build, so stick tuned for that. All right, we're back day 2. Got my morning chores done. Now we're gonna get ready to get started on this. Some things as I was editing last night, I noticed that I didn't talk about in the last video, which if you haven't seen that, kick back and look at that. But I didn't talk about digging. And so as far as like what's underneath the ground, if you called for the 411 or whatever for the marking and called them to ask them to mark, they would not mark back here because this has been all put in by the owners of the property. So they only mark what the utility companies put in. So all of this back here would have never been marked anyways. I did not put in the water or the power back here originally, but I fixed both of them because they were both jacked up. So I know where they're at. The water I had to tap into, put a pressure regulator and a valve in to get that to shut off. The old valve is broke underneath the ground, and there was never put in a pressure regulator. So those were done. So I knew where the water line was. I knew I wasn't gonna hit that. And I knew there was some kind of power line that went through there because I uncovered it when I was doing another job. But I don't know necessarily where it comes down through here going to this other barn. So I dug the holes by hand. And so I shut the breaker off for the power for that barn. I knew what leads went through there. I shut that power off. And then I dug those by hand, taking my time and being particular and making sure I didn't hit those. So just be particular when, and pay attention when you're doing that kind of stuff. It can be dangerous. I'm sure you've seen that in all kinds of other videos, but there you go. That's what I gotta do. So first thing today is we're gonna set up our transit. We gotta get our poles marked. We gotta get our metal height marked and get our metal cut. And so I will get that transit set up and then I'll come back. All right, we got our transit set up. I'm not gonna take you all through this stuff. I could do a whole video on nothing but transits and how close they get and how accurate and why you do what, but basically all I do is I take my small magnetic level and I get my base as close to level as I can. You don't have to do that. There is adjustments on the transits, but I do that because I don't like to use these adjustments and make them move all the way out. I want to get that as close as I can. So that's how I do it. I set the base as best I can with a little magnetic, little 6-inch level. Then I put my transit on here. This is a Bosch GOL26. I think I got this on Amazon. And so just to talk to you about the transits here, there's 2 types of transits that typically DIYers use. One is I call it a looking glass transit or a sight glass transit. That's what this is, which means this is kind of like a scope on a gun. I have to look through here and I can see out there what I'm seeing through on the lines. I like this version of the Bosch. This is my 3rd one, not necessarily of Bosch, but over the years, in the last 30 years, I've went through 3 of these, either dropping them or whatever happens. But this one has an auto leveling lens on it. So it has a little button underneath here that you'll push. It'll hold the lens down as you move. And then when you get to where you want, you go and it'll level out and it'll give you a more accurate reading. So I really like this Bosch. The other type is what I would call a laser level. And so you'll set them down and it just is a laser beacon that spins and it sends out a signal, and on your leveling stick you have a transponder that receives it, and it will beep and it will tell you if you're in the center or if you're high, if you're low, all that kind of stuff. So why do I choose this one over that one, and what are the pros and cons of each, and what if you're looking to buy one, which one do you get? So the looking glass or the sight glass transits like this are way more accurate than a laser transit. Now, I may sound old when I say that because technology grows every year, and every year those laser ones get better for the dollar amount. So for $500, if you're going to spend $500 to $1,000 on one of these, the looking glass I can get within a 1/16 of an inch. So for construction projects, that's very important to me that everything is level, everything is plumb, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and so I choose this looking glass. The negative is it takes 2 people. I have to have one person down there holding my stick and talking back to me, and I'm talking here, and I always want to be the guy doing the marking, but I can't because I can't trust the person here reading, and you can't lean against the transit port ever, and you have to be very careful, but it's way more accurate. So there's pros and cons to both. The laser, you can set it and forget it. You can be the person down there. It runs, it auto levels, and it beeps, but On a project like this with a laser level, I'm looking to get within 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch with a laser level, whereas this is more like a 1/16. So that's what I'm looking to do. Now, like I say, you can spend $8 grand on a laser level. That is super accurate and be within a 1/16. Technology has grown. But for the money, this is why I do it this way. But if you are always working alone, get a laser level. So I do prefer the laser level for excavating, where centimeters and 1/8 inches aren't as important. But that's what I choose there, and that's how I got that set up. So we're going to mark our poles. So basically, I'll look through the sight glass. I will find where level is on my poles and on my metal, and I like to use that line to measure up. You could put the stick on the pole, see where you're at, and get the height you want, and do it on the same on both poles. But I don't like to lean against my poles with ladders or anything like that. So I like to mark and measure up, and that's just the method I choose to use. So that's what we're going to do. We'll look through the sight glass. I'll give my son the ups and downs, put a mark on it. Yeah, you're perfect. Draw the mark thick, square it off. Do that both on both poles and both sides of the metal. And then we use that for our measuring up point to say, okay, how high do we want each thing? And that now everything is level and we chalk our lines. So when I come back, that's where we'll be at. All right, we've got our lines marked from our transit on every pole. Show you what we did. So you can see he's got these little tick marks, and I say, no, go way up. And then he goes up here and he makes a little teeny mark, and then I'll look through it, and the little mark should make the mark in my transit disappear. Once we get it perfect, he makes that line a little darker. I come over with my speed square, make my line. So now we have a perfect mark here on the corner of our metal, on the back of our metal back there, and then on this other post. So we know what level is through our transit. And then from there, we determine our height up for our header board. Because this is just a small lean-to, I'm not driving stuff in, it's just to cover this door. I picked 7.5 inches from the ground for our height, which is still pretty high. And then we measure up, and we pick the shortest side. The ground kind of tapers a little here. So this is gonna be our shortest side. It'll be like 8 foot 2 inches to the beam up over there. So we made this mark, measure up, make our mark, and then I put in these little joist hangers. So I'll show you this real quick here. So I just cut a 2x4, 12 inches long, put a nice little 45 on it, trying to look like a professional carpenter there. And that will help me hold my joists up when I'm putting the screws in it for our band board. Why am I doing this? Do you need to do this? No. If I had another good carpenter that was strong, we would just hold it up there by hand and put the freaking screw in it. But I'm dealing with little ones, and you're probably doing that too on your farm. So this helps him to get it up there and have some place to hold it, and I don't have to worry about him moving and screaming and whining. It helps with all that, and then I just leave it. It's a nice little accent, and so that's what we do. So next we're going to put that header up, and then we'll go through that. All right, we got our joist screwed in up here on this, and then we've marked out where our trusses are going to go essentially. So our joist beams back to our existing structure. So I'm putting these on 2 foot on center. We're only going 9 foot away. It's not very far. It doesn't have to carry a huge load. We're going to use 2x6s on the top. 2x8s on the top for our joists, and we've marked them out. So to show you my mark, I've got a mark for where I want to be. An X is where my joist is. And then I've come in and I've put this hanger in that's flush at the bottom, so I can have something to screw my joist to. This helps. You don't have to do this. You can toenail right into this, but it really helps for having something secure to put into it. And it gives you a good handle just as you're throwing them up, just to put it right against it and go. You don't have to measure. So what we're gonna do, we got our line, X, our joist is here. I'm gonna put my board like this, make it flush at the bottom, and put that top screw in, and then I'll show you how to square it up. Okay, so now I put my joist in with just the top screw. So I'm gonna put 3 in these, and then I put my speed square against it, put my speed square laying across the top, hitting the bottom of this board back and forth until it lines up with my speed square. Then I know that board is straight up and down. I'll put my 3 screws in it, and then we're ready to start doing joists. Okay, our joist hangers are in. We've marked out our metal. There's no way you're seeing that line on the camera, but it goes across the building to there. Basically, we've marked out where we're gonna cut the metal. So we've chalked a line If I was building the building, this is not the way I would do it. I would go ahead and put this in, put the roof in, then put the metal above it. And probably the proper way to do this is to take all this metal all the way down, put everything in, cut it, put it back up. I'm not gonna do that. It's a lot of work and I don't wanna be up that high. Don't even have the equipment or the guys here to help me. So I'm just gonna cut it straight across and then build down from there. Makes it a little tougher on how you have to put your angles in, but that's how I'm gonna do it. So I've chalked my line across where the metal's gonna be cut, not necessarily where the joists are gonna sit, but that's where the metal will come down. Then there'll be a transition metal piece onto the roof that we're gonna be building. So that's chalked. We'll cut that and then take all this metal off of this building and begin to fix the boards on the wall. All right, we've got the metal off. We're starting into the stand, which I just wanted to show you. This is termite feces. We've ripped these boards off and you can just see the rot and corrosion, the nastiness on the boards that are down through here. This is just gross. I mean, it's just like years and years of neglect. This should have all been ripped off. One thing is the hewn stuff where the guy who originally built this, none of this is treated. And so this is what you get when you don't lock stuff properly away from the weather and you don't spray and you don't monitor what's going on. This is what you get, this kind of damage. And so all of this has to be ripped off. The door has to be uninstalled and ripped out. You can see, I can now tell why it's not shutting properly, because this is spray foam, and I don't think this is window spray foam. This looks like the harder stuff. And so if you don't use the blue cans of spray foam when you're spray foaming in, it will flex in and over time. Plus, I also think if he did use the right stuff here when they were installing this door, as this got moisture, as these boards got moisture, it's flexing against the door, causing the door. So it could have been one of two things there. Who knows? But it's a mess. And so we're gonna rip all this off. It's really nasty. My son's even asking for a mask like we're COVID crazy, but because of the fumes and the nastiness. But we're gonna burn all this, get all this ripped off, get all new boards put up, and then we'll come back. Well, it is the next morning. Unfortunately, I did not intend to wrap this video up like this. We worked into the dark and to the point that the camera did not work when we were wrapping up. Cleaning this wall up was way more work than we anticipated. We expected yesterday to have all this done and our joist hangers up and come out today and just do metal and perhaps frame in the door. Obviously, we are not there. There was a lot more rot than we expected, and so we worked on that. We also, due to the rot, had to remove a couple poles that were here and here, and then fill in the floor where they went through the floor. So we had to make some forms and pour some concrete yesterday where we did not expect to. And so we have all of that wrapped up now on here. So basically, if you're building a new building, you just get your poles square and go ahead and throw these joists up once your header boards are in. But for this, we have to put some kind of boards up to screw our metal to. You do not need 2x12s. So these 2x12s, you know, it seems like I'm going overkill, and it is. One, I want to make this wall stronger because this barn shifts some. So this little piece of the barn on this front, because of the door, I want it to be a little stronger. So I use the 2x12s, but the 2x12s were free. Okay, so they have old nails holes in them. They came off of a large skid holding a large piece of equipment, and they were free. I don't want to use them where you can see them on the external building. It'll be covered by metal. You won't see that I use boards with nail holes. They are perfectly fine, perfectly structurally useful, but you know, they're 2x12s. It's way overkill. So you can get away with 2x4s on any building, on any pole barn wall. I prefer 2x6s. It's a little stronger. If you're going to go 20 foot high, I would say you need a minimum of 3 rows of 2x6s, and the rest of your rows can be 2x4s. But structurally, engineering wise, 2x6s is kind of the standard for your wall beam. Gives you more room to screw that screw in as well. And so this is where we're at. And so I'm going to wrap this video up. I hope this helps. You'll watch the next video. We will start videoing today. We're going to get these joist hangers in, get our metal up, and show you how to make sure your poles are square and all that stuff before you start hanging metal. We also have to put a new wall. I had to unframe that whole wall. So we're going to have to frame that wall in, cut out our holes for our door, and reframe our door in, put the J channel up before we put our metal up. So that's coming on the next video. Thanks for watching today. Hope that video helps.